Hey everyone, Cameroni here with a farming strategy. If you're following my build or, have another build that has a lot of explode, a lot of clear, decently tanky, this is a great farm. I'll get into some of the details on profit per hour here in a bit. But this strategy involves rushing Delirium. You add some other things to it that add packs to the map that you can kill quickly. Breach is my favorite. Breach has always been my favorite strategy, but it's also my favorite because it adds a ton of mobs. You can open multiple breaches at a time. Strong boxes are good. Shrines are good. I'm using shrines along with breach. Beyond is incredible, but it's kind of hard to fit it in, and I didn't need that many mobs, so I went those shrines instead to make it a bit faster. Legion is good, but Delirium Legion mobs can be scary. Abyss is good, but slower, and also rare Abyss mobs with high Delirium are scary. Calgar is probably good as well, but a bit slower. Harbinger is also good, but a bit slower. So why Breach? Breach adds a ton of mobs. It's really fast to do and is quite profitable, but not in the way you'd think. It's not the stones that you want, it's the rings. Breach rings are inexpensive this league. Each unidentified level 83 ring is 3.3 chaos, and each unidentified level 84 ring is about 6.6 chaos. How? When you vendor 60 breach rings, you get an unidentified grasping mail, and people are going crazy for these this league because you can use recombinators to craft incredible things like the chest that I'm wearing, which I crafted myself from a grasping mail that I made for breach rings. I sold an armor is increased by overcapped fire res for 45 divines earlier today as well. However, if you're not a gambler, you can sell your unidentified grasping mails in bulk for 1 to 2 divines each. Typically, I sell my level 83 unidentified, well, typically I don't sell mine. I'm a gambler, so I identify all of mine, but if you don't want to do that, you can sell your level 83 mails for 1 divine, level 84 grasping mails for 2 divines, or somewhere around there. The market for these is pretty empty, so take a look at it. It fluctuates, but somewhere between 1 and 2 divines each in bulk for grasping mails. And the demand is fairly high. Mine sold really fast when I sold them unidentified. You also get quite a lot of rings with this strategy. The strategy involves rushing Delirium, though, so I don't stop to pick up each ring, just as many as are in my path as I rush through the map. So how does this strategy work, you might ask? Well, thanks for asking. We're using 4 Paranoia Scarabs and 1 Mania Scarab. If the Mania Scarab makes it too difficult for you, you can swap it out for a Domination Scarab to get more shrines and still quite a few mobs. Gloom Shrines, if you get one, are GG in this strat. They make it so easy. So are speed shrines. If you can fit some sort of explode into your build as well, I'd highly recommend it. If you don't have anything in your ascendancy or anything on your build that explodes, no heralds, whatever, you can use a mercenary with a legacy of fury boots and gravebind gloves, so long as your build doesn't depend on you killing monsters, since everything will be counted as being killed by your mercenary. If that does give you some explode, if you're using a herald, don't do that because it won't count as you killing anything, so your herald explosions won't come off. In which case, you can give your mercenaries Asenath's Gentle Touch, which adds some explode and also some curse on hit from your mercenary and cursed mobs that curse things around them pretty decent. I'm running the strategy on dunes. Any open map works. You can use shore, you can do beach, you can do canyon. There's a whole bunch of good ones. You can even do like longer maps like Tropical Island or Strand. Whatever your favorite map is, you can probably run this on that. I'm running this on dunes. Like I said, I spent days in Basilica Prison trying to find the seer to scribe cards to dunes, so I'm stuck with dunes now. It took forever to find the seer. We then high five all of the breaches as we sprint through them, blow up the map, turn our games into slideshows, and pick up stuff on the go. After achieving nuclear fusion with our CPU temps, we dash to the boss, beat him up for his lunch money, and then imperiously demand that the Delirium gods hand over our spoils by clicking this button. The goal is speed here, so you don't want to have to leave the map to deposit everything in your stash. Go back to the map, and then back to your stash, and then to the next map. You'll probably be leaving some things on the ground. I do that quite frequently. Moving on to a loot filter. You want a pretty strict loot filter with this strategy. I'm using the Uber filter from Filterblade, and then making it even more strict on top of that. I'll put my loot filter in the description if you want to peruse it. It's not perfect, but I'm too lazy to change it more, and I deem it good enough. I'm also showing tier 1 dust uniques for King's March, because you can never have too much dust. And you get a lot of them with this strategy. I only pick them up if I have space in my inventory, which is not frequently, but sometimes I do. The guys that turn uniques into dust are also slow, so you don't need a ton of items. If you just pick up, 1 or 2 every map or every other map, that should be plenty. I currently have 2 quad tabs full of random uniques ready to be made into dust, so I don't pick anything up anymore. onto the big cheese, the div per hour, what everyone is here for. It's a bit hard to estimate profit per hour with this strat like it is with a lot of strats, since you get so much random loot. Some of it's hard to sell. I've been bulk selling cluster jewels for days on end, which is a pain, and you don't need to do that, but I'm all about maximizing my profits. And Wealthy Exile says that I have 27 divines worth of cluster jewels sitting in a quad tab, so I'm going to sell them. I will eventually get my 25 divines, you believe me. Wealthy Exile has the profits on some things wrong as well. I know it's still league start, so prices fluctuate like crazy, and it's hard to gauge what they're going to be. According to Wealthy Exile, is making 27 div an hour. That is incorrect. A lot of that was cluster jewels, which are a pain to sell. Some is Scarabs that aren't actually 1C. A lot were essences, which are also not 1C because they were screaming essences. I ended up bulk selling those at Faustus for a lot less than 1C. And the same with some other currency. It's also not counting the grasping mails and a bunch of other stuff that the prices weren't correct on, like fossils. The fossil prices were a lot lower than the fossils actually were. Same with 4-socket resonators, which I dropped like 12 of those. Eldritch currency, divination cards, etc. I'll put a quick breakdown of my rough revenue, not profits, from the 108 mod Dunes maps. This isn't everything. I'm sure I'm forgetting some things, but here's a recollection of everything that I got from these 100 maps and what it all sold for. You can find that in the description if you want all of that. But the TLDR is, it was about 130 to 140 divine profit from 100 maps without the big drops and cluster jewels, which are a pain to sell. Each map on average takes me 4 minutes to run. Since I'm kind of slow, you can do it quite a bit faster. If you factor in the time spent suffering as I dump things into my stash between maps and talking to Faustus for all of the things that I want to liquidate, it was about 7 to 8 hours of playtime to run those 100 maps. The cost per map is about 30C, so it was about 15 divines for the 100 maps that I ran if you go by today's prices, and about 134 divines in profit. So, not bad, not bad. That's about 19 divines an hour. It only goes up as you run maps faster, which is definitely possible since I'm not speedy by any means. If I include the big drops and don't include all of the dump time and a lot of the Faustus time, then obviously it's more than 19 divines per hour. I do include that, though, because I like to be more realistic with my numbers. I farmed an incredible amount of currency. As you can see from my POB that I'll put in the description, I have some really expensive gear. I didn't farm all of it with this. I did do tier 17 strong boxes for a while. I did Abyss for a while. I did tier 16.5 maps with 5 cartography Scarabs of Risk for a while. I've done some good strats, but this is the one that I did the most. And I've made quite a lot. I think I made, if I factor in the big drops, I made a bit over 200 divines from the strategy, which for 8 hours of rushed playtime is pretty flippin' good. So in summary, this is a fun, simple strat that gives really good XP, decent gold, and a quaint 19 divines per hour if you don't factor in the large drops, and if you factor in some of the time spent dumping in the stash tab and using Faustus. This can be done on any decently tanky build with good clear. Squishy builds will likely suffer, since Delirium and Breach hit pretty hard, and they hit a lot. Likewise, builds with bad clear won't be able to achieve the speeds needed for the strategy to be good. If you meet the criteria of being decently tanky with decent clear, highly recommend. It's a good strategy, it's a lot of fun, and it requires fairly low IQ. You just run around, you high-five the breaches, you kill all the mobs, you beat up the dude at the end for his lunch money, and then you make the gods drop you your loot. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'll catch you next time.